Let me go back to the women thing because I know somebody was saying they're commenting on your advocacy for women and protein and strength training. How much how much time do you dedicate to that? Is that still a big part of what you do?
Yeah, it's like probably the biggest part of what I do right now. And I mean, the reason why we really wrote carnivore-ish is because we somehow live we're in a time and place right now where telling people to eat an animal protein focused diet is either extreme or sneered at or ignored. It's crazy when you think about like the history of human beings and that we've always eaten that way. But that me saying I want to write a book that says you should eat animal protein and other stuff is like weird. Like the idea that I want that to be in like the healthy food section is bizarre. And if you go walk and look at the healthy cookbook section of your big box bookstore, it is virtually all plant-based. It's all vegan, vegetarian cookbooks. And it pisses me off because I think there needs to be at least some semblance of balance. Even if any of us agreed that plant-based was a good idea, the lack of balance is so problematic for our collective health that it was upsetting. And so I said, okay, we've got to do this. Like if I write a cookbook that just says eat real food, that's not good enough. So we have to kind of have a play on words here that's a little bit cute. And the idea is that these recipes are just food. They're just normal food. There's fruit there. There's vegetables there. There's, I don't know, maybe there's even a little bit of grain. Not really. It's mostly like gluten-free, kind of paleo-ish. But it's just animal protein focused because it is revolutionary right now, somehow, to tell women that animal protein and red meat is good for them. They should eat more of it. And my co-author is a woman in this space too. And I just feel like we're doing a massive disservice to women who are buying these cookbooks, who are going into the healthy food section because they want to be healthy and they want to provide healthy food for their families. And all they can find are vegan salad recipes. So we wanted to just like sneak in there and see if we could change some people's minds. And, again, I work more specifically with women who are trying to build muscle and who are trying to get stronger. And they've been told their entire life that you have to restrict how much you eat, that being the smallest you can be is the priority always. And they're trying to build muscle tissue while eating restrictively and eating low protein. And it's really hard to kind of like unlearn these things that they've been taught for their entire life. The idea that eating heavy protein, as people call it, like animal protein, these heavy foods are actually going to make you look better, lose weight, build muscle, feel better, have a better cycle, have a libido, like all of these things. It shouldn't be revolutionary, but apparently it is. So it's a hard job, but I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because you go into like a Barnes and Nobles or whatever, and you look in there and you're right. In the cookbook side, healthy cookbook, you see a plethora of plant-based sort of diets. You do see, there's meat in the barbecue section. They've got a big section of barbecue and stuff like that, but that's implied that it's, I guess it's implied that it's not healthy, which is, obviously I would strongly disagree with it, as apparently do you. Why should women eat more meat and protein and red meat in particular? What would be your best argument if you had to put forth that? I know I can do it, clearly, but I just want to hear your take on that.
Well, I mean, there's so many arguments, but again, if we're speaking about like women's unique physiology and needs, like cycling women who are having a monthly cycle and a period, we have extra requirements for things like iron and magnesium and copper and all of these things that we are physically like losing out of our body every month. And the best way to get that, again, bioavailability, is through red meat, is through animal sources. And your hormonal health, a lot of people and a lot of like really hard charging like female athletes and stuff, we see these things like the female athlete triad or like women losing their cycles and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times it's almost like this like badge of honor of like, I'm working so hard, or I got this lean, I'm losing my period. That is a massive sign that your body is not functioning properly and is telling you that it's like in survival mode essentially. And you don't have to want to become pregnant for that stuff to matter to you. It's a really, really big warning sign that your body isn't functioning properly. So yeah, I mean, and again, if you want to build tissue, like this is what I tell women who are like, it's like a semantics thing too. I think that we don't understand like the terms that we're using a lot of the time. Like people, I joke, I rail all the time on social media about the word toned and how stupid it is and how no one really knows. Like we think toned means like, I don't know, have this like lean Pilates body or whatever. And that if you eat less and if you do yoga all the time, you're going to look toned. But like body composition, as we all know, is about building up that skeletal muscle so that when you lose whatever the desired amount of body fat is, you have this like pleasing fit shape, right? And that's going to look different for different people. But so many women, they don't prioritize the strength training and they don't prioritize the protein that's going to build and support this skeletal muscle. And so they work really hard to lose the fat by doing this chronic cardio and eating plant-based. And they get to a certain size and they're not happy with how they look because we're misunderstanding what that body composition, what that look and what it takes to get there actually is. So yeah, I mean, it's like literally the only advice I give to pretty much all women across the board, like trying to get my period, trying to get pregnant, trying to build muscle, trying to lose weight, just like eat more protein. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty good general thing. There are people, particularly in the plant-based world, that will say that, we only need a minimal amount of protein, and any excess protein is going to lead to premature aging, lead to things like cancer and so on and so forth. And they base that on, studies in fruit flies and mice and stuff like that, which is, the human data doesn't seem to support that at all. But we still have that belief there. Let me just for frame of reference, I know there's different recommendations, 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilo, up to 2.2, but do you have a general target of protein that you try to get personally?
Yeah, I don't like working in kilos. I'm Canadian, I should, but I don't. So I still deal with like grams per pound because it's just easier for me to remember. But for me personally, this isn't necessarily ideal for everybody, but personally, I'm usually trying to do a little bit more than 1 gram per pound of lean mass. So somewhere between that number and 1 gram per pound of like actual body weight. So, if I'm 130 pounds, but I have 108 pounds of like lean mass, or, for example, I'm trying to eat like 115, 120-ish grams of protein per day. And if I'm in like a hard charging muscle building phase, I might up that a little bit. I mean, I know there's plenty of studies out there that kind of show if you're going to overeat something, protein's the thing to do because it's much less likely to be stored as fat. You're just not going to gain weight overeating protein the same way you would eating the other two macros. And also it's like such a high satiety thing that like you really don't have to worry about chronically overeating protein. Like as delicious as steak is, you're just not going to overeat that all day, every day. It's so satisfying. So yeah, so I would say like, for most people, like a gram per pound of like your ideal body weight or like somewhere around there is maybe a decent starting point, but it also like ebbs and flows, right? Like it's more about kind of consistency over time and about addressing what your immediate goal is. Like, are you looking to lose a ton of body fat? Are you looking to build muscle? Are you training for something? Things are going to change based on your goals, but that's a decent starting point, I think.